All right, everyone, we just have one massive story to break down today, but it has to do with that heavily discussed and long-awaited Nintendo Direct happening in June, as we do now have official confirmation from Nintendo that a Direct presentation will be taking place this week. However, it is not the announcement that fans were expecting, and we have to talk about what this means, if anything, for the potential for a mainline June Direct to still hit this month. What's up, Nation? If it's your first time on the channel, make sure you join Sunbro Nation by subscribing below, hit the like button on this video if you enjoy it today, and make sure you turn on your bell notification icon so you're kept up to date with all the newest gaming news. Now, as I mentioned, guys, we got one massive announcement to unpack today and really break down what this means for our expectations as Nintendo fans, as clearly there has been a ton of hype and anticipation around when we would see Nintendo announce their mainline June presentation that historically they always hold. Of course, this is an interesting year in 2022, raising a lot of questions to begin with, because normally Nintendo would be aligned with E3. However, E3 is clearly canceled both physically and digitally. We've had Summer Games Fest, which they are not aligned with at all, even though Sony and Microsoft somewhat align themselves with Summer Games Fest, if you can call it that. It's more just like a watermark or being marketed as part of Summer Games Fest. But regardless, we have had zero communication from Nintendo around what they have planned for their summertime presentations that year in and year out they do put on and hold. And today we got a very surprise announcement that yes, indeed, they will be putting on a direct presentation. However, it is a Xenoblade Chronicles 3 focused presentation. As you can see, the following posted up directly over on Nintendo of America's Twitter account, where it says, "Tune in on 6/22 at 7 a.m. PT for a live streamed Xenoblade Chronicles 3 direct presentation featuring roughly 20 minutes of new information about the upcoming RPG adventure for Nintendo Switch." And of course, if you are a hardcore Xenoblade Chronicles fan, you are going to absolutely love this news and be relieved that we are getting a standalone 20-minute plus reveal of this game and what it has to offer at its own focused direct. And I am definitely a fan of this presentation happening. However, you have a very polarized and divided reaction to this announcement, because of course, if you're not a fan of Xenoblade and you want the mainline direct with brand new announcements and updates to things like the N64 roadmap, Mario Kart 8 Deluxe Booster Course Pass Wave 2, you want the long rumored games like the potential for a Zelda Wind Waker Twilight Princess bundle on the Switch, or just standalone HD remasters, you want news on whatever Metroid has next for a Prime 4 update, or some kind of Metroid Prime Trilogy HD or Metroid Prime 1 remake, you want all of those main series staples to be featured at the summertime event that is historically always Nintendo's biggest of the year. And what are we supposed to think now, because it's going to be Xenoblade this week? Would Nintendo go out and do a follow-up with a mainline direct next week? Well, I'm going to put my money on yes, they will. And while that's clearly not confirmed, leaks and rumors, whether you want to believe them or not, there is a lot of talk that June 29th, or maybe it's the 28th, depending on time zone. But since this one announced on a Monday, happening on a Wednesday, I think it would be a safe bet to assume the same thing would take place next week with some kind of mainline presentation. Could it now be a direct mini because we are having a whole focus direct around Xenoblade Chronicles 3? That's definitely a possibility. Or Nintendo does have so many big planned announcements for a mainline presentation that they want something like Xenoblade to get its own event, so it is not taking up a significant amount of time. It was probably like a 40-minute plus style event that they typically hold for their summertime directs. And so even if you're not a hardcore Xenoblade fan, you may need to look at this as good news that it is getting its own separate presentation. However, until that announcement comes from Nintendo, you're just going to have a lot of frustration online around fans thinking that this is all we are getting for the summer. And that's where the marketing decision behind this is interesting. However, you may have heard controversy creates cash, and I do think all these people talking about Xenoblade 3 and being worried that we're not getting a summer direct is probably only going to translate to better sales for the game. So maybe Nintendo knows what they're doing here, but I do think there will be definitely some harsh reactions to this event, regardless of how great the game looks, just because everybody is so ready for that big announcement of what are we doing for the summer, Nintendo, because you do something every year in June. What's going on? And right now, people think this is all we're getting. Now to then pivot the conversation to what the insiders are saying about this, that of course have sparked a lot of talk online around it being a late June direct, specifically the 29th being the date going around, stating that originally from Alana Purist on a stream saying that she knows, checked her notes and everything, that's the date for a Nintendo Direct. Of course, a lot of fans before that thought that the week of the 14th through the 16th would make the most sense, myself included. Then we even had that content creator go viral with their inside email that they should have never leaked, but that actually showed that there would be games that had embargoes lifted on June 16th, causing a lot of people to think, yes, that is indeed the date or the week at least that we will see that direct presentation take place. Well, clearly that time has come and gone, and then all expectations were then shifted to the 29th after Alana Pierce made that statement on her live stream. Then you have people like Nate the Hate going on record saying that yes, he can confirm that that is indeed accurate information, and that is when we should be expecting a direct presentation. However, was this Xenoblade thing even hinted at? I don't think it was, other than you can maybe claim that Jeff Grubb had some information around that, as you can see his tweet here. This fits with what I heard about Nintendo doing their summer showcases in bits and pieces. I still expect more news later this month. And previously, Grubb was indeed stating that he had heard that Nintendo had multiple presentations scheduled, and we even discussed that in a video where maybe Nintendo would lead with mini directs this time around, or have game-specific focus directs, and it wouldn't be that one big presentation. That could definitely still play into what we will see announced for June 29th. Then you have Nate the Hate posting up in response to a fan asking whether or not this was that leaked or rumored Nintendo Direct that they were referencing, and Nate the Hate responded with the following: "There is still a direct presentation for later this month." So where I land on all of this is that I definitely personally still think it is highly likely that we see Nintendo next week make the official announcement that they will have a mainline direct presentation. Whether or not it is a mini direct or a full length direct is up for debate and speculation. All of this is clearly, but Nintendo, you have to remember at the end of the day, is quite honestly the most unpredictable company out there, period, as I think they're probably the only company that's ever has their own verb created after them, which is that Nintendo does Nintendo things, and that just simply means we don't know what to expect from this company because they do twists and turns and swerves all the time. Even that 29th date being very unlikely to a lot of people, thinking that, well, that's an investors meeting for Nintendo and they've never held a direct right before an investors meeting. And it's like, yeah, we just see them do stuff that they historically have never done before. So it is probably the hardest and also the most fun company to talk about because they're constantly shifting things around. We're talking about a Xenoblade Direct hitting right now that this game was originally going to be out in September, and they're probably one of the only studios ever that moves up and slots around games to say, hey, we actually want this one to go in July because we need a little bit more time for maybe Splatoon 3, or they're just strategically looking at their launch schedule of games and they know they want to put different games in different slots depending on how they think it'll do best in their overall release year of software. Like, they are definitely the most unique, crazy company to talk about. And so I think here with this one, even though some fans want to take this as concrete evidence that we're not getting any kind of mainline June Direct, I think you can still be relatively hyped for some kind of big announcement coming soon. Is there the possibility that it goes to July? I will be very surprised if that's the scenario. However, again, you can never say never with Nintendo, but I do think that we need to still temper our expectations to look for some kind of big announcement from Nintendo early next week, and that's where I land with all of this. Not to say I'm not hyped about the Xenoblade Chronicles 3 presentation. I'll definitely be watching that and enjoying how they present this game and get the new details put forward. But yes, I am a huge fan of other franchises from Nintendo, and I'm very excited to get some kind of announcement for what they're going to do for their big summer blowout event, because I don't think that anything changed just because E3 isn't here this year. I think Nintendo still has their announcements round up and ready to go, and they want to absolutely have a stellar game sales year in 2022, and you do that by creating a lot of hype with titles that are soon to come, probably some that are done and ready to go that are unannounced. Yes, Nintendo will do business as usual, and I will be waiting for some kind of announcement to be around the corner soon. I want to hear from you guys at this point in the video, all your personal thoughts and opinions on this. Do you think that Xenoblade getting its own direct presentation this week is an indication that there is no hope for a June Direct and this is all Nintendo will be doing for the month? Are you more like me and you do think there's still a high likelihood that next week we will get some kind of mainline direct presentation? Do you think it's going to be a direct mini in light of this announcement, or do you think they just truly have so much at that direct that yes, this could be good news because now we're not taking up 10 plus minutes on Xenoblade footage, but rather focusing on many different new announcements that they may have, or just updates on games we want to know about, like Metroid Prime 4, maybe Breath of the Wild 2 makes an appearance there, and many of those others heavily rumored games, and Bayonetta 3. I mean, Nintendo still has a stacked year. You got to remember they're going to show these games off. And share with me if you fall into the camp that maybe they are breaking up multiple presentations and we see like just a mini direct next week, or maybe we don't get anything till July and then we get another game focused direct and it's just something different this year than they've historically done. So regardless of your thoughts and feelings on everything we talked about today, I do look forward to hearing from you you all in the comments down below before you leave the video, as I do look forward to getting a back and forth conversation started with you all around this topic. Go watch the weekend video next if you haven't already, where we boot up Metroid Prime Trilogy together and I share some of my thoughts and nostalgia around those titles, and also have a broad discussion of where all the leaks and rumors stemmed from, suggesting that we should see them make it over to the Switch at some point in the future. Also, make sure you like, subscribe, turn on your notification bell, and I will see you guys in the next video.